Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We are going to be listening to hometown tragedies. I don't have my teeth in. The Mardi Gras murders. Okay.
Went to bed, woke up to sirens and caution tape around the block. It is extremely important that we make an arrest as fast as possible. Each direction that this case is pulled has led to roadblocks or dead ends. Something went wrong in that call. People were really shocked. It's very heartbreaking. It's scary. Are these cases connected? People go home like they have to live what they happen to me. New Orleans is really a melting pot. There are so many people here from not just all over the country, all over the world. It's a big, small town. We're world known for our food and our unique culture. A lot of celebrations, revelry, Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is a 2-week stretch. There are parades almost every night. There are balls. There are parties. Millions of people come to the city to see this.
It doesn't matter who you were or who you're trying to be. Chances are you're going to find a family, a community, friends, and a home here. We're extraordinarily welcoming.
This is the city where you could just be authentically you and you'll be loved.
You have kind of two different sides.
You've got the most colorful characters you'll ever meet anywhere, but we are also a city that is unfortunately plagued by violent crime. I was working that evening. We got a call from command desk about a woman shot on Downman Road in New Orleans East. Neighbors said they heard a handful of gunshots, maybe as many as 10 to 20 gunshots. That is uncommon anywhere. Everybody realizes something is up. What is going on? Police arrived at the scene within minutes. I noticed that it's an occupied strip mall. There's open businesses. I see cars in the parking lot. I see people inside of these structures. Police realize this is going to be a homicide scene immediately. So they set up differently. They call the homicide detectives out there. They're more meticulous, looking for critical clues and shell casings and anything that can help them solve a crime like this. I was a lead investigator. So I had one person follow crime lab for evidence collection and processing of evidence. I had a team of detectives actually go in and interview the occupants of some of these business locations, try to see if anyone saw or heard anything. Well, then news started to break that it was a well-known performer named China Gibson. China Gibson is a transgender performer, popular in the culture of New Orleans, popular in that industry, does a lot of work in Texas, some in Atlanta. Her friends will tell you, love being on the stage, love performing. We lost a loved one. It's still heartbreaking. She was just so cool. We were like, good girls just by her like inviting me in and just feeding me so much knowledge and about being a trans woman, about transitioning, and because we all know as young trans women, we want to know what the finish line looks like, and we barely made it across the starting line.
It really broke my heart. She was a very, very well-known figure in the community, and there was also just an outpouring of love. People were immediately looking for information and answers. Why was this person shot? Why was this person killed? So the death of China Gibson starts blowing up on social media. For somebody to sit there and like hate you that much, to just kill you, like who would do that? Social media has played an effective role in a lot of investigations. It helps us kind of learn about events surrounding the victim's life. By the next day, everybody was trying to get in touch with her loved ones, her relatives, and press police for answers on what happened. Was the person the target? We started getting a lot of phone calls from people identifying her as like a pretty prominent person known throughout the community. So then we knew that this was something else than just a robbery
a random target. It just seemed there's something more going on there that we had to delve into at that point.
We don't need to let up on this issue with her death. I feel like we need to push it until they find out who did it.
We identified people who actually kind of saw the tail end of what happened once they heard the gunfire. They looked up and kind of saw the perpetrator as the gunfire ended and where he went. Based off of witness statements, based off of what we observed on the scene, it appeared that we had one perpetrator. We observed that China was shot multiple times at a pretty close range, indicative of a person walking up on her and just shooting her multiple times. Through interviews, we learned that the perpetrator ran across Downland Road, which is a pretty busy street, into an adjacent neighborhood, and then no one saw where this person went from there. No one identified this person by name, which is a very vague description. It didn't appear that anybody knew this person from inside the salon. The motive wasn't there yet, but it did appear that the perpetrator knew the victim.
48 hours later, tragedy strikes again. A transgender performer was found stabbed to death and left on Columbus Street. China Gibson was shot and killed. China Gibson is a transgender performer popular in the culture of New Orleans. 48 hours later, tragedy strikes again. Behind a popular seafood restaurant, a crime scene.
Went to bed, woke up to sirens and caution tape around the block.
On that morning, I was up for the next homicide. And we're talking about the carnival was in full swing. Mardi Gras was like the very next day. I was alerted via phone call from one of our on-duty sergeants. It says we had an incident. The person was said to have lost their life after being transported to the hospital.
A Sierra McElvin, a transgender performer, was found stabbed to death and left on Columbus Street.
We take every murder very seriously, and it is extremely important that we make an arrest as fast as possible.
Sierra McElvin did a lot of work in Atlanta, some work in Texas, but very well known in LGBTQ community. Sierra McElvin had just met with a friend a couple of hours before. She spent the day babysitting a friend's child.
Lady got her kids and everything, and Sierra said, hey, drop me back off. Her and Sierra and the kids get in the car, they drive back. Sierra gets out, hey, I'll see you later. The lady pulls off. That was the last time she saw her friend alive.
Sierra McElvin was somebody who, if you meet, you couldn't help but like, because she had such an outgoing personality, and her performances during transgender events always seemed to stick out to a lot of people. They thought that she was special and very memorable.
It's very heartbreaking and it's scary because it's too close to home. I mean, it can happen to any of us, but I'm like, we hang in the same circle, we hang in the same area. It's just like it happened to them, it can happen to me.
I was at the scene the day that Sierra McElvin was stabbed and killed. A lot of witnesses said that they saw a man pulling Sierra out of the vehicle. A lot of the people who made statements couldn't identify the person. They couldn't identify the vehicle. It was only a dark colored vehicle.
We managed to locate an establishment with cameras that was right there. Viewed the cameras, and you could see Sierra and an unknown person were standing on a corner. And you see a vehicle travel northbound. Couldn't really see inside of who it was because of the position of the camera. Sierra walks over to the vehicle and engages in a conversation with that person. Sierra enters the vehicle, and the unknown person that Sierra was originally talking to just went about their way and walked off as the car pulled off. Several minutes later, that car comes back, makes the turn on the street to where she was found, stops, and then the driver gets out. It appears to be a male. Walks around the back of the car, opens the passenger door, starts rifling with whatever is in the passenger side, pulls what believed to be Sierra, dumps her on the ground, shuts the door, gets back in the car, and pulls off.
Police are looking for a vehicle of interest in McElvin's murder on Columbus Street. The car is described as a two-door black Chevrolet Camaro with chrome rims, and the person driving is a person of interest.
There was not much there of evidentiary value. We had some Nike slippers or slides. We had a spot of blood and maybe a few other items. That's it.
days prior to McKelvin's murder, China Gibson, another transgender performer, was shot and killed in New Orleans East. We have all dealt with serial killers in our time, and we've all seen it on the news. I think we immediately start to think, is there a serial killer out there? Is there somebody who's targeting transgender black women performers in the city of New Orleans? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility for something like that to happen.
I think it's important for us to talk about the murders that we've seen here within a short period of time in New Orleans, but also connected to the larger issue of the violence that is occurring amongst Black trans women and trans women of color across the country.
The life expectancy of a Black trans woman is about 30 to 35 years, which is extraordinarily low.
It's not a day that goes by that I wonder if somebody knows, or looking over my shoulder if I'm in a mall and wondering if somebody could tell that I am trans, or if somebody's going to verbally attack me by saying, that's a man, or, oh, I know what he is. Like, all those things in one way or another are hurtful.
It's scary because like a lot of the girls in New Orleans are like walking around like zombies. You know, they have this little hidden fear that's inside of them to even go anywhere.
China Gibson was shot. Sierra McGalvin is now stabbed to death, essentially in broad daylight. Very rarely do you have two high-profile murders like this of transgender women.
I was actually on that scene of that murder that happened 48 hours prior. So, of course, now I'm thinking, is this connected to the homicide that happened 48 hours prior of China? And if not, what is this over?
I don't know if it was a hate crime. I don't know if it was a passion love crime. I'm not sure what happened with China.
There's nothing demonstrating that this is a hate crime. If we learn that it's a hate crime, of course, we'll pursue the charges of it.
The emotions were raw at these vigils.
I stand here as a trans woman of color, not looking for your acceptance, not looking for your approval, but I am demanding my respect. Respect as a human being, respect as a God-given person, and respect as my mother's daughter.
Let's do everything we can not to lose another life.
There are a lot of struggles that queer and trans people in this city face. There is a lack of affordable housing. There is a lack of suitable employment. That means that folks who identify as queer or trans may be forced to participate in the underground economy. And we know that those professions are often criminalized. And even queer and trans people who may not be in the underground economy may still be profiled because of what people think that they may be doing to earn money.
Homicide investigations, they're very fluid, and a narrative can change. What you may think you have can change by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month. There was a little shot. I take a look at the cameras, and you see a Camaro come, and his camera catches the back of the car. So now I'm looking for a license plate. But unfortunately, because of the positioning, I could only get the last 2 or 3 numbers of the license plate. But I understood that car, the model years of that car was a 2010 to 2013 Camaro. And it wasn't black, it was actually blue.
Clearly, whoever pulled her out of that vehicle has to know something about what happened, why she was there, and what led up to her killing in the final moments of her life.
I get several hits back, and the last couple of digits of the license plate for Camaros of that year, make and model in the general Orleans metro area. So I had one that was registered to a home in New Orleans East. Just try to pass in front of the house, and the car is there. When I knock on the door, an older gentleman comes to the door, and tell him why I'm there, looking at the car. He says, "Oh, that's my girl's call. I made a mental note of him because even though I can't get HD quality view of the person's face, his general build and makeup, he's kind of fit that general build and makeup of the person that pulled Sierra out of that car. I had the car shipped to the local FBI headquarters to have the evidence processing team search that vehicle. Once the seats were removed, we had where you could pretty much say a puddle of blood had been. And I got a phone call that I was one of the best phone calls I ever had. Every speck of blood in that car came back to Sierra.
On February 25th, China Gibson, a transgender performer, was shot and killed. 2 days later, Sierra McAlvin, another transgender performer, was stabbed to death. And officers say they'll know no boundaries as they continue to look for suspects.
I had a bulletin made up, submitted to local media outlets. Now I make my way back to that house. And I'm looking for that older gentleman that answered the door. He's not there, of course. I got a couple of calls. One call in particular was from our LGBTQI community liaison at the time. He tells me, says, Joe, wait a minute, this who you looking for? He said, oh, he's always around looking to hook up with some of the girls. So I said, really? Turns out the month before or so, he actually got into a vehicle accident trying to get away from another law enforcement agency, which he sustained damage to one of his legs, which basically left him with a pronounced limp. And going back and looking at that video, when that person got out the car, they did have a little difficulty with how they walked. So I was like, it's him. I know it's him. I got a call from Lafayette, and it said, hey, he's actually up here by an associate of his. So he came up there maybe a few days or so, or a week after Sierra's discovery. I hit the road, get with Lafayette PD, and we go to the address, and that person says, you just missed him. Like a week, I had missed him. A warrant was authored by me for his arrest in the murder of Sierra. There were sightings of him like 2-3 states away, but as it stands right now, he hasn't been located.
Police put out pictures of two men in the China Gibson case. They were both brought in.
These things take time. Our investigators are looking for evidence.
So we learned there was at least 2 males identified by name who China had intimate relations with, who lived in the city. One of the named subjects' family claimed that China said, if something happens to me in the city, you have to look at this person. We never had any evidence of that. That was just through statements by family. And that was a red flag for us based on the manner in which she was shot and killed. So we started doing a deep dive into that person. That person lived in close proximity to the murder scene. We actually got a search warrant for China's Instagram account, China's cell phone, and we found text messages and messenger app messages between China and this person of a sexual nature, and also messages where this person not threatened, but made it known that he didn't want to be identified openly as having a relationship with China because he identified as a straight male. And that was a big red flag for us. There's possible motive as to why she was killed, and we started looking at this person pretty hard as a potential suspect. We identified other people also mentioned in the same vein as the first subject in a secret relationship. So it's pulled us in different directions, and each direction that this case has pulled us has led to roadblocks or dead ends.
I think it was inevitably a big letdown when they said, nope, we've used these people for as much information as they can give us, but they're not being charged.
I do believe that people know more information about this case, and with that information passed on to us, I hope that one day we can solve this case. Without that information, we don't have enough to build a case. We don't have enough to establish probable cause and to make a strong enough case to take it to trial and hopefully bring this person forward and have him answer for his actions.
I would say that that happens really often. People being afraid to speak up and leads going cold. We really have to be genuine and honest about the legacy of mistrust between police and law enforcement and LGBTQ plus people.
I do believe that she was targeted because the person involved possibly was afraid of being exposed as having a relationship with China. Police have said they do not believe the cases are related. They have said they do not believe this is a hate crime, either case. And so I think a lot of people find that tough pill to swallow.
I have been Black and queer my entire life. This work literally represents life and death, not just for me, but for my chosen family, for the people that I love and care about. I had two Black male friends who both of them identified as gay, and both of them died within a year of each other. One died by suicide, and the other was murdered. And to this day, we don't know who did it. I think a big part of why they both ended up dying was because of homophobia, because of people's outdated attitudes about gender and sexuality. And so when I do this work, it is for me, but it's also for the people who haven't had the chance to live enough. For every Sierra in China, I have to wonder who else is out there that we just don't know about yet.